So Eleanor Beaton, where to start? She's the owner of Fierce Feminine Leadership. She is an amazing coach that helps people to dial up their impact, results, and love the process. She trains women to position themselves. She writes a column for Atlantic Business. I have to flip this over for a second. See, that's how much it was. She was recently elected as one of 8 international advisors to a new women's leadership program at Yale University School of Management. Eleanor is an amazing woman, and you just never know where you're going to run into her. Because I was in Arizona at the airport about to take a red eye, and I ran into Eleanor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to hook up with you. I didn't know it was going to happen here. So that was pretty awesome. Eleanor is going to talk a bit about getting around the boys club. So please join.
Hey everyone, can you all hear me? Yep. Awesome. Well, I'm so honored to be here, especially in support of women's rugby, because I literally owe my life to rugby. So my mother is from the Fiji Islands. My father was Welsh. The peoples of those two countries take rugby as seriously as we in Canada take hockey seriously. And at the age of 21, after graduating from university, my father left Wales, went down to Fiji for 4 years to work in the central planning office of the Fijian government as an economist for the princely stipend of $9 a week. So in order to keep alive and feeding himself, he had to go fishing basically every day after work and then in the weekends. And when he wasn't fishing, he was playing rugby with my mother's brother. So my mother hated watching rugby at the time. She didn't like the tackling. She decides to go one day to watch her brother play. There's my dad. Here I am. Yay! So I love rugby and I love sport. And sport, especially competitive sport, has been a part of my life for a long, long time. And I came here to speak a little bit about working with the Old Boys Network. And you can't really talk about the Boys Network without talking about the culture of sport. And so that's what I want to focus on a little bit here. Because I think as women in business, we have a lot to learn from competitive sport and from the ladies who get out there and compete every day. You know, in the work that I do developing women leaders, I know that there is a powerful connection between a woman's background in competitive sport and her long-term success in business. Does this mean that you have to have played competitive sports in order to be successful in business? No, absolutely not. But what you will find is that if you do have a background in competitive sport, or if you take some of the lessons that it takes to compete and perform at a high level, that simply gives you a platform for practicing some really important skills. So who here wants to know about some important skills that you can learn and apply in your business that competitive athletes are using all the time? Put them up. All right. So I will share with you. But I want to set the stage. So in 2014, Ernst & Young did some research they interviewed 400 senior women leaders from around the world. Half of these women occupied C-suite jobs. So when I talk about the C-suite, I'm talking about chief executive officers, chief financial officers, chief operating officers. The other 200 were women who had senior roles. They were basically on their way to getting there. Here is a very powerful statistic. Of the C-level women, only 3% had not played a competitive sport. Of the 97% of those women who had played a competitive sport, 50% of those had played at the university level. Fascinating. Interesting. Also interesting for us as women, because what we know is that after the age of 14, girls start dropping out of competitive sports like flies at twice the rate of guys. So little pro tip, if we really want to be serious about getting more women into senior roles, especially within large organizations, and I know there are a lot of us here who are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and that's all good, but we know that there is a lot of influence and power still in large organizations. And keeping our girls in competitive sports for as long as we can is one really helpful way to do that. So here's what competitive sports have taught me and helped me with in my business. And I think these lessons are important, and certainly when I'm working with women, these are things that I am encouraging them to adopt, skills that I'm encouraging them to practice. So the first thing is sport teaches us to see the field of play. So when it comes to the psychology of high performance, the critical skill is focus. And there are two different types of focus. There is narrow focus. So it's finishing that report, finishing that plan, sinking the three-pointer, which is not me. I still play, but that's not what I do. I'll tell you what I do in a little bit. But that's narrow focus. And then there's broad focus. Broad focus comes into play, particularly in team sports. It's when you need to see what is happening across the field of play. When I was in university, I was the quarterback for our intramural women's football team. We were called the Smashers. Woo! And you really see broad focus there, because I would get the ball. There are people trying to tag me, I guess, because they couldn't tackle me. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and I have to read the play, see my receivers, throw the ball, all while this kind of chaos is happening, right? That is broad focus. So here's what we know, what the research suggests about factors that women can control that derail their careers. We know that a big career derailer for women is too narrow a functional focus. So if you want to be a really effective leader of an organization, or if you want to grow and scale your business, it's not enough to just know your piece of it. You've got to see how the whole organization fits together. You've got to be able to read and see the field of play. So what does that mean for you? It means that if you are an entrepreneur and you find you're focusing 80% of your time on the delivery of your technical area, you've got to take a step back and spend more time working on your business. If you have spent years in a single department, HR, marketing, finance, what you want to do is make a lateral move. The careers of brilliant businesswomen are littered with demotions and lateral moves. Guys call them assignments. They're really important. It allows you to see and read the field of play and have operational experience, which is critical, right? When you look at the CEOs of big organizations, they are typically coming from the operations seat. That's where the rubber hits the road, where you're managing teams of people, where you have a budget, your butt is on the line. It's a good training ground. Stephanie Clark is here. She and I have lots of conversations about operations. If you want to talk about business, get her to sit down with you. She'll fix you up. So that's the first thing. It teaches you the art of broad focus, of seeing the field of play. The second thing that sports teaches you is that you have to call for the ball. You have got to call for the ball. It's making the ask, and it's not just making the ask, it's making sure that people can see you. So I still play competitive basketball, and I still play competitive soccer. It doesn't, hey, we lose a lot. I show up to win, we lose a lot, that's okay. I'm there to play, and I'm there to compete. When we talked earlier about cortisol, I get a lot of cortisol out by playing competitive sports. It's awesome. And I'm in the post. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm down in the post, mixing it up with other ladies who are big and powerful and strong, and my point guard is bringing the ball up, and I'm posting up against somebody. And if I don't put my hand up and call, if I don't get in position, seal my girl, put my hand in the ball and say, yep, she's not going to see me. I've got to get in position, make it known that I want the ball, and call for it. Have we got some basketball players down there? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, 3 minutes. Got it. I'm like, what? What? And then, if you call for the ball and you get an open shot and you don't take it, get out of here. Like, let's get someone else on the floor. I think as women, it's really important to set ourselves up for opportunities, to call for the ball. If somebody doesn't pass it to us then, hey, that's good. We did all we could do. But then it's time to take the shot. Take the shot. Show up, play. The final thing that competitive sport does for us is it teaches us to not fear intensity. Don't be afraid of intensity. Anytime, when Sheryl Sandberg talks about leaning in, it's not just about being uncomfortable. Again, I've had the privilege of working with some of the most celebrated business women in this country, and their experiences are littered with being uncomfortable, with chaos, with getting in over their heads. It's not always, the kitchen is not always clean, right? It's not always in order, and not just that. Like it's, you know, when you really lean in to leadership, Goethe said, the German philosopher, he said, talent is developed in isolation, character is developed in the midst of men, or in the midst of people. It is complicated, it's a little messy, it can be intense, and you don't have to be afraid of it. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. I still play competitive sport, basketball in the winter, soccer in the summer. And I do it because it gives me a platform to get out some of my natural competitiveness and aggression. But it also, it is also a reminder when I'm out there, it is so much fun. I'm moving, I forget about a lot of things, and it gives me a chance to really manifest and live what I think is the essential, emotional, core desire of fulfillment, which is freedom. Thank you so much for listening.
Eleanor, did you plant some questions with anyone?
No, no
Okay,
plants.
so no plants.
I know, that was an amateur move.
Anyone have a question? Does anyone have a burning question for Eleanor?
Who's your favorite woman leader that you look to that you say, that's the one?
She's dead. Her name is Catherine the Great. I like Catherine the Great, you know, so she was an outsider. She was a German woman who came into Russia. She, you know, well, I remember, this just, I know there's children, but I remember in high school hearing this story about Catherine the Great and her salacious, you know, appetites for animals, you know, this kind of thing. And then I found this fabulous book about Catherine the Great. And, you know, it's so interesting what we do to powerful women, you know. But the things that she did when she was in charge essentially, you know, laid the foundation for the whole, like, Russian literary enlightenment. And a lot of my favorite authors come out of that. And so I read a lot of books about, you know, women leaders, and, you know, and she would be my favorite.